That is so cool animation. I like it. Thank you so much. I'm switching to English. I hope you guys are not annoyed with that because everyone before me was talking in Turkish. It's a very exciting day. It's extremely exciting. I don't know about you guys. I'm very excited. It's a very special day. Not because it's UX Alive. I mean, UX Alive is great. But today, the Avengers finally comes out. And after 50 years in development and 500 movies, we can finally get to see the ending. Or do we? We don't know. That's why we are going to see the movie. Well, at least I am going to see the movie. Anyway, my name is, as you can see, Amer, like America, without the Ika part. And I was lucky enough to work with a lot of tech companies here in Turkey, like Humancentric and Peak Games. And now what I do mostly is consult with companies about their Agile process. So I help companies change their Agile process from this to this. I mean, look at the guy. What do you think? I was heartbroken when I saw that he shaved his beard for this movie. What do you guys think? He's better with a beard, right? Who thinks that he was better with a beard? He's a very, very good-looking guy. True story. I was watching Infinity Wars, or the movie before this, with my wife. We were at the cinema, and there's the scene where when he is introduced, he was in a very dark spot, and then all of a sudden, he walks into the light. I kid you not, she like gasped loudly, like, ah! She was so excited, and she was blushing, and I was sitting next to her, and I was like, damn you, Chris Evans. But yeah, so that's what I do. I try and help companies with their Agile processes because so a lot of companies do have a lot of problems with Agile. There you go, okay. So, for example, if you guys have watched the first Avengers that came out in 2012, I've watched it recently to prepare myself for the new Avengers. I've noticed that it was kind of slow, or in movie terms, it was dated. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but everything these days is becoming faster. Everything is becoming better. Everything is way stronger, harder. So when it came out in 2012, it was the best movie of that year, basically. And it was, on Rotten Tomatoes, scored over 95% or something like that. Whereas if it comes out now, this year, it'll probably score like 60. So everything, there's a shift, like everything is becoming faster. The Olympic athletes that won gold medals in, let's say, even 2012, 2010, a few years ago, would they even score top 5 spots now? I really doubt it. Everything is becoming faster. The whole world is moving really, really fast. And also software development is. In the 80s, it was waterfall, where you are working on the project for months at a time, and then you release after probably a year or two, and who knows, customers might not like it, they might like it. It was a big bet. You had to have huge amounts of money in order to work on a software project. And that's why Agile development came, to minimize the risk a little bit. But even with Agile, you still have to work on an MVP, which requires development, which requires developers, marketing, rent for a few months until you release your first MVP. Releasing an MVP was still expensive. I love looking at this chart. I don't know if you guys have seen it recently. Basically, what's happening is product-centric companies are going down to the bottom, and human-centric companies going up. Apple, Google, like you see, Coca-Cola is a product company. IBM used to be a product company. They realized that they need to change and keep up with the time, and now they are a service-centric company. So I mean, you get the idea. I don't have to wait until you see the whole picture. I will let the man, the richest man in the world, let you know, if there's one thing that Amazon.com is about, it's obsessive attention to the customer experience end to end. Like, even Jeff Bezos himself became more agile and more lean as the years went by. Gibson guitars is one story about the same thing. Gibson guitars, I don't know if you were listening to David Vogel's presentation this morning, they were innovating for the sake of innovating. They were adding more trinkets and additions to their guitars, even though customers did not ask for it, and now they are filing for bankruptcy, whereas their competitor, Fender, are thriving and selling in the hundreds of millions of guitars. Why? Because Fender were listening to their customers. One example was they realized that a lot of the people who were buying their guitars were teenage girls. So what they did is they changed their homepage and they put role models, female role models for these teenage girls to look up to. And they redesigned some of their guitars so they would fit into the hands of teenage girls. Google was also one of those companies that was human-centric, customer-centric, and that was rising up after 2008, even after the economic collapse. But one of the things that they didn't want to deal with was the expensive process of Agile development, because it was immediately after the economic meltdown, and there was a lot of risk. They were investing in a lot of startups through their branch, Google Ventures, and they didn't want to put a lot of money in advance. So what they did is engineer a process that will help them test ideas and overcome problems or solve problems without any risks. They even called it in this Business Insider, they call it a SWAT team that will go into those startups that they're investing in and help them become successful, basically. So Agile, you start with idea, get a lot of money, you build an MVP. That MVP is usually expensive. You launch, you get a lot of data feedback, and then you iterate on that. But the problem is, that's not what usually happens. There are a lot of problems, unforeseen problems that come your way, and instead of releasing after 3 months, you need 5 or 6 months, sometimes even more. It gets more expensive. You're paying a lot of rent. You're paying development money. And suddenly, you don't have enough money, and you are completely destroyed. This is a great example about that, when Loki in the first movie thought he had all the support, all the money, all the armies that he needed, and he even compared Earth to ants. Does an ant have a quarrel with a boot? Or that's what he said. And he comes, and he didn't know that he was going to face a big problem, which is a Hulk problem. And he was smashed. Jeff Gothelf, the author of Lean UX, said the biggest lie in software is phase 2. Because even after you release an MVP, what happens? You get a lot of feedback, right? What are you going to do with that feedback? You're going to have to work on it, usability problems, a lot of other problems, bugs. So you keep pushing your phase 2 further and further away. And also, it's difficult to know what your customers really need. They don't even know what they really need or what they want when you ask your customers. And then you release your product to them, and this is what happens. And you're smashed again. A friend of mine faced the same dilemma, basically. She had a great idea for an app. And when you go talk to your family and friends, they always want to be supportive. So they say, yeah, it's a great idea. Go ahead, go work on it. She spent 10,000 euros to make this app, or maybe even 12,000. She went to a development agency, and she told them her idea, and they worked on it, and then they released both Android and Apple iOS, and then went to the market, and she paid a lot of marketing, so thousands of people downloaded it. But then that's it. Nothing after that. Flatline. Why? It turns out there was a lot of usability problems. People didn't really understand how to get from point A to point B within the app. And she lost a lot of money. Could she have avoided that? Was there a way to avoid this? Yes. Yes, thanks to Google, who engineered the design sprint, especially for this. The design sprint is a step-by-step process that you follow. It's a recipe, basically, that you follow when you have a big problem, when you have a big challenge, and you follow it, and it gets you within 4 days. It used to be 5, now it's 4. I think it's even 3 in Silicon Valley right now. Within 4 days, you get to a prototype that you test with 5 users, and that will give you all the information that will 80%, that will solve 80% of the problems that you were faced before releasing an MVP. So you can work on fixing them before you release an MVP. And this way, they get to save a lot of money before they didn't even spend any money. One of the main things that are important, it's a concept that's taken from design thinking. I guess everyone here, if you are a UX designer, you would know, or involved in UX, you would know what design thinking is, which is having a diverse team. Because having a diverse team from different backgrounds will help you with disruptive innovation. Innovation that's basically built on a lot of ideas from different backgrounds, and you build on those ideas and you get something really amazing at the end. So you get a diverse team. You need the whole team only for 2 days, Monday and Tuesday. They clear their calendar for only 2 days, Monday and Tuesday. So your CEO, if he says he's busy, tell him we only need you for 2 days, and that will save us a lot of money and effort. You get people from different backgrounds, put them in for 2 days, and then on Wednesday, you make a prototype. And then on Thursday, you test that prototype with your users. The important roles here is that you need to have someone who is a decider, the CEO, the product manager, whoever is responsible. You need to have an expert in the room, at least for half an hour or an hour, to ask that expert about what you need to know about that product. For example, if you're designing, let's say, a dry cleaning service, you bring someone who works in dry cleaning and ask them all the questions that you need. You need a facilitator. A lot of people or companies choose to bring in a facilitator from outside the company because they wouldn't be affected or influenced by the CEO or afraid of the CEO, and so they can keep everything going without any influence from anyone. And that is another important thing about the design sprint, is that everyone gets to participate in the design. It's democratizing design and decision making. So on Monday, you get an expert, you ask them, you understand the business, you set your long-term goals, you map the user journey, and then you start ideating solutions on the second part of the day. This is a photo from a design sprint. People are voting on their favorite solutions without talking. That's another thing. Meetings waste a lot of time. In order to get rid of time-wasting meetings, without talking, you vote on your favorite solution. And this way, no one, no CEO, no product manager can affect the decision-making. The best ideas are the ones who are going to make it through the voting. The mapping basically helps you understand the user journey and the problems that the user is going to have. Everyone gets to demo their own solutions, their ideas, and then also sketch their own solutions. The next day, they vote on a solution, on their solutions with a heat map vote, which means without talking, everyone puts sticky notes on their favorite solution, on their favorite sketches, and at the end, you could make your solution from all those, your favorite interactions or favorite parts of these sketches. Prototyping, we're living in an amazing time for prototyping. You can create prototypes that looks exactly like the real thing. Like if you bring user the next day, especially if you, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Figma and Webflow, you can make amazing prototypes that look exactly in the front like the real thing. Especially when you use Webflow, for example, is one of my favorite tools these days because after you finish testing and adjusting the prototype, you can have fully functional code that you can send to your developers, so that saves them a lot of time. Clean code, front-end code, of course, not back-end. clean code that you can send to your developers to immediately start working, which saves a lot of time. Or you can, if it's a mobile app, you export that code into React, and immediately you can have a mobile app. So on Thursday, you test with 5 users, and then you're done. Why 5 users? People who are cleverer and smarter than me had mathematical equations and did the study. Dan Norman, everyone who studied UX design knows Dan Norman and knows Jakob Nielsen. They have a very long study that proves 5 users will help you find at least 80% of the problems in your product. So that is, if you are a product manager, that's already amazing because that's a lot of reprioritization work got rid of immediately before you even started working on your MVP. Friday, you party, you have an extra day, why not? You deserved it. And this is how Google works. This is how Slack works because they were invested in by Google. They're owned by Google, basically. A lot of the best companies in the world work this way. And Agile, there's nothing wrong with Agile. This is the Agile principles or commandments. There's nothing wrong with Agile, don't get me wrong. But it's just too expensive. And from the word Agile, the name Agile, it has to be more agile. So how do we make Agile more agile? Let's look at the principles. Our highest priority is to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable software. That 20 years ago used to be an MVP. Now, an MVP, when you release, if it's ridden with problems, especially usability problems, then users are not coming back. That's it. You've lost thousands of users already. So in order to deliver valuable software, you need to prototype first, test it, and then work on your MVP. This is just the Agile principle being updated. Agile processes harness change. It was released, the Agile Manifesto was released in the year 2000. And they're telling you in the manifesto it needs to harness change. A lot has changed in the past 20 years. Why can't we change the way we work with Agile? A lot of amazing methodologies came out in the past 20 years. Lean UX, design thinking, and the design sprint. Use them to make your Agile processes more agile. Deliver working software frequently from a couple of weeks to a couple of months. I can even do better than that. With a design sprint and Webflow, I can deliver a working software in 5 days. We need to update the way we work. Business people and developers must work together daily. That's in the Agile Manifesto. Do you see that in any company? No. No, business people and developers rarely talk. With a design sprint, they are sitting together in the same room. They are working together, and both working toward a solution, and all their opinions matter. Everyone's opinion matter. No CEO yelling at everyone telling them that they are wrong, because the solution, the ideation, is anonymous, and only the best ideas move forward. Build projects around motivated individuals. When your developers, I've talked to a lot of developers, and they say, we feel like we don't matter in the company. They just send us work. And that's why a lot of software work takes a long time. Programming takes a long time. Because they're not motivated. They're just being told what to do. When they participate in the design, they are more motivated. They program faster because they actually understand what's happening. They understand why they are building this. To which end? They've already talked to the customers. They've seen customers. They know what's going on. If any one of you have read the book Inspired by Marty Kagan, he says if you are using your developers to write code, you're using less than 50% of their capabilities. The most efficient and effective method of conveying information is within development team, face-to-face conversation. And in a design sprint, you have quality conversations, engineered in a way you get the best out of those conversations. No long meetings. The meetings are time-boxed. 15 minutes, 20 minutes, And there is a structure to the way people talk. Everyone's given his time to talk without interruptions. The team reflects on how to become more effective, then tunes and adjusts its behavior accordingly. Retrospectives. But in addition to retrospectives, the idea here is that they should always use whatever tools they can to become more effective, to become faster and better, more agile, whether it's lean UX, design thinking, or design sprints. Make your agile process faster and better. Basically, those methodologies, all three of them, like steroids to your agile process. Customers now expect great performing products first touch. They download it the first time. If they don't like it, you've probably lost them. They'll probably never come back, and they will tell their friends, oh, that's a terrible product, that's a terrible app, that's a terrible website, I don't want to go there, don't want to use it again. You have 20 seconds to impress them, otherwise it's gone. The best teams in the world work this way. Why can't we work this way? And to bring it all home, a design sprint is not like Thanos' gauntlet. It's not easy. It's not a silver bullet. It's not going to solve all your problems, but it will make your life easier. Agile is not broken. There's nothing wrong with Agile. It just needs to be updated. It needs to be more agile. Design sprints help achieve your roadmap 60% faster. Why? Because you are discovering 80% of the problem in your product before you release it. They save you a lot of money, and they eliminate risks. Because basically, you're not spending any money. You have your team already is there. Figma is free. Everything, you're basically just paying for their lunch. That's it. And it makes the team more motivated because they are working on the design together. And as Steve Jobs says, everyone's favorite innovator, creativity is just connecting things. Let's just connect those processes together. Let's build something that will make people's life better, that will make the developers' life better, and help us create products that customers actually care about and love. And that's it from me. Thank you very much. If you want to talk more about design sprints, you can find me on LinkedIn. This is the website. And buy Sprint. It's a great book. Even if you don't care about design sprints, it's a great book to learn about product development in general. Buy Sprint. Thank you very much. Do you have questions? No? No. Oh, how many? I mean, it's 3:30. OK, if there are questions, I'll take questions. And no questions. All right. Thank you very much.